Okay, so this is our OSAP and post-secondary funding information session. With us tonight, we have Laura Russell, who is the Coordinator of Financial Assistance at Loyalist College, and she'll be speaking on the OSAP process. And we also have Denise Reed from CISIP, who is their financial counselor, and we'll be talking about some, I think the word is grants, that are available to military families specifically. Alrighty, so I will let Laura take the floor whenever you're ready.
Good. Okay. So, hello. I'm glad we have some people visiting us tonight. Going to listen to our little blurb about my little blurb about OSAP. I do work at Loyalist College, and Kendra did introduce me. My name is Laura Russell. I worked at Loyalist College for a considerable number of years, and specifically with OSAP. So OSAP is a program that is not just specifically to Loyalist College. It's a program that that is available. Now I'm just seeing myself here. I don't like this. Sorry. Okay, so OSAP is a program that is not, it is generic. So any school you go to in Ontario, you're eligible to apply for OSAP. So that's why I can talk to you about OSAP, because it works the same for all colleges and universities. So it's the main financial program that most students in Ontario that have a financial need or need some extra funding to go to college or university, they will apply for OSAP. So the application, it depends on where you're going to go as well. Yeah, I said specifically Ontario, but you can get funding for out of province if you're studying out of province, and you can also you may be able to get funding if you're studying out of the country. It depends on the school that you might want to go to. So the application comes online probably within the next month, either mid to late May or maybe early June before it'll be available for the study period of 21-22. And the application is available on a website. It is the official government website, www.ontario.ca/OSAP. So that's where you would find that application. And also I'd like to let you know that on that website, even before you apply or anything, there's a wealth of information about OSAP funding and a lot of explanations and things there as well that you would find. So first of all, I'm going to tell you that OSAP is a good program. It's been around since 1967. I think that was our centennial year, and that was when it was created. And there's been many, many changes to it, but it is a really good program. I complain every time there's a new election and the government makes changes to the OSAP program. Sometimes the changes are for the better, sometimes they're not, but at the most part, it's a good program. And right now, it is a shared program. OSAP stands for Ontario Student Assistance Program. So if you're going off to college or university next year in the future, that's probably one of the instruments of funding you're going to apply for. So this program is a shared program between the province and the federal government. So it's shared between Ontario and the federal government. And each have their own rules under this program. But the bottom line is, depending on your financial need and situation and status, it will depend on whether you're eligible for federal funding or provincial funding, or some of both. So when you get your assessment from OSAP, you're going to see federal funding, like see Canada Student Loan, Ontario Student Loan, Canada Study Grants, and Ontario Study Grants. So it gets a little confusing that way when you're looking at your funding, but as I always say to students, you need to just ask if you're not sure about what it means, okay? So my suggestion is, as soon as that application becomes available, I really want you to go online and apply. And I'm just reading my notes here now too, so I don't forget anything. If you haven't decided for sure where you want to go to school next fall or in the future when you decide your post-secondary career, you shouldn't apply. I always say people need to apply early, but don't apply until you know exactly where you're going, because you would think it would be transferable between schools, but the OSAP is not transferable between any schools. So you would have to call that school and get your application closed for one school if you decided to go to another one and fill in a whole new application for another OSAP for another school. And each college or university in Ontario, most bigger ones anyway, there are a few small ones that may not have a very big campus. So, but they all should have a contact for you to talk to an OSAP representative at their school. So if you went to Loyalist, you would have you'd have a contact person such as myself to contact if you had questions about OSAP. And so it's the same if you go to St. Lawrence, if you go to Queens, if you go to Thunder Bay, if you go to any place to Ottawa U, to Carleton, all of those schools will have a financial aid office where you can get assistance and ask questions. If you're studying out of province, there is the head office for OSAP is in Thunder Bay, but they won't talk to any of our Ontario students. If you call Thunder Bay, they're going to say, what school are you attending? And if you say Queens, they'll say, okay, you need to call Queens. So you have to talk to the financial aid office at the school you're going to attend. The assessment or the amount of funding that you may receive is based on your family income. There are loans and grants. Loans you repay and grants you don't. That's the definition of a loan. It's a repayable amount of money that you're going to receive from the government. And a grant you don't have to repay. There are situations where you may have to repay the grants if for some reason you withdrew from school at some point and didn't stay the full length of time that you normally would have, then some of your grants could possibly be turned to loan. And there's also a stipulation that you and your parents must file your income tax, because OSAP does check with CRA for the notice of assessment for the actual income. So it's important that everyone files their taxes. And we had this little conversation before we came on air with you. This is right now, everybody's filing your taxes. So when you go to fill in your OSAP form for this year, you're going to ask your parents for their notices of assessment for the tax year 2020. And that would be the one they just filed just now, or before Friday, they're supposed to. So, and some people don't, some people do file late, and that's okay. But you'll have up until a year from the start of your program. So say you're starting school in September 2021, you have until September 2022 to submit your income tax and have it assessed. You have to have it assessed by September 2022. And if you don't, then you run the chance of those grants being switched over to loans. They'll give you lots of warning though. OSAP sends out 3 or 4 communications over the course of the year telling you that. So when you start to apply for OSAP, people get intimidated just by looking at the application on the computer. It's a government form and people do stress about that. But every page is a separate page, and at any point in time when you're going through this application, you can save and exit. And if you have to go find out more information, then you can save and exit and then log in another day. You don't have to do it at one full sitting. You can, and then it gives you time if you need to call a financial aid office or call anyone else, like one of your school counselors, or call your mom and dad in and say, I need your help with this. Then you have time to do that. And so the first thing that most people ask is, who has to fill in the application with me? Well, if you're a single dependent student just coming out of high school, chances are you'll have the family that you live with fill it in. And we know that the family that students live with these days can be very different. So you could live with just your mother, then it would be just your mother would fill in the application for you. If your family consists of just your dad, then your dad would fill it in for you. If you have a birth mother and birth dad, that's who you live with, then they both fill it in. If you live with your mom and your stepfather, they fill it in. If you live with your dad and your stepmom, then they're the family that fill it in. It's just remember that it's the family that you live with. And please remember to add all your siblings. There is a question on there that says how many people other than yourself. And so make sure you put that in there. And there's also a question on how many are going to post-secondary. So they want to know if there's another sibling in post-secondary, because they understand then that, of course, money is not going to go as far if there's 2 or 3 students already in post-secondary. So make sure, and if you're not sure who should fill it in, and as you fill in, there's some key questions that will help you determine who should be filling that in for you. But if you're puzzled by any means, contact the financial aid office at your school that you're going to, and they'll explain what you should do. Now, there are also family breakdowns, and students may have a family breakdown. So if that is the case, again, you need to contact the financial aid office at your school, and we keep it all confidential if there is a problem like that. Okay, so just reach out to us, to a financial aid office at the school you attend, and they will gladly speak to you and explain what needs to happen if that's the case. If you have not logged into OSAP before, the first thing you're going to do is register. It's like any other website that you have to sign up for. You have to register. So you're going to put in a lot of pertinent information about yourself. It's called your profile. So you're going to put in information about your name, your SIN number, your address, your email address. And they also ask some questions in the first part if you are someone with a permanent disability. So if you have a permanent disability, say yes. And bear in mind that a permanent disability is not necessarily a visible disability. It might not be, it's just not someone with a physical disability. You could have a chronic illness such as diabetes or arthritis. You could have ADHD. You could be diagnosed with other learning disabilities. Those are all permanent disabilities. They ask if you're an Indigenous person. They ask if you're ever were a Crown ward or ward of the Crown. So, and for all of those, you have to provide proof of that. You have to provide documentation. But that's okay. You have time to do that. You don't have to find it right away. There's a form to print off for the permanent disability, and you would send that to your family doctor or whoever knows your disability or whoever you work with in regards to that. And they fill that in for you, and then you submit that to your financial aid office. So after you've done that, you are going to be given a, it's called an OSAP access number. So it's a 9-digit number. Write it down. Please keep it somewhere safe so you don't lose it. And then they'll ask you to make up a password of your choosing, just like you do for any website. I got a million passwords and I'm always trying to remember them. Anyway, so make sure you write those two numbers down, your password and your OAN, and keep it in a very safe place. So then you're going on to the next page. When you get to that next page, you're going to hear your phone ding, and you're going to have an email from OSAP with a code, a special code to authenticate who you are. So on that next page you go to, there's a spot to put in this code. So if you do it right then and there, that's the easiest thing to do. So then if you do lose your OSAP access number and password, you're able to retrieve it via email and get set up again. Okay, and there's another twist to the OSAP application. This is the second year we'll have it. It's called a financial literacy segment, and they give you a list of information about OSAP and how it works and what your rights and responsibilities are. And then they give you a quiz. They'll ask you multiple choice questions, and then you have to answer these questions. But don't worry, it's not a test. You're not going to pass or fail. They're not going to not give you OSAP because you don't answer the questions right. They give you the answers if you make a mistake. So after that, you get on to the rest of the information on the OSAP application. And bear in mind, it's like about 20 pages. But a lot of it, there are lots of pages that you wouldn't have much to fill in. The rest of the application is basically your financial information and that of your family. So it's called parent 1 or parent 2. If there's only a parent 1, well, then you'll just fill in the parent 1 information. And then if there's 2 people, 2 parents, you'll fill in the same information for both parents. So, and they use this financial information because it is a needs-based program. It is based on financial need, but it all depends on your family size. If there's 10 people in the family and your income is high, chances are you're still going to get some funds. The actual number is if your family income is $140,000 or less, you're going to get some financial aid from OSAP. Okay, so many people don't want to fill it in because they think they aren't going to be able to get any money. But to me, it's worth a shot. You may get some little bit of a grant, even if it's a couple of $100. It's worth the paperwork. And so when you get through the application, there's going to be a whole lot of, well, it'll feel like a whole lot. For me, it's a pittance, but at the end of the application, you're going to, before you hit submit, you're going to review it. So review it carefully, have a look, make sure that it's all filled in correctly. And don't stress if after you submit it, you say, oh, shoot, I put in the wrong thing there. You can't fix it, but we can at the financial aid offices at your school. So all you would have to do is contact the financial aid office. And right now, everything's pretty well. It's the easiest thing is email. So email them with the issue, and they will tell you what they need to provide the change. Like they're going to need some proof of documentation or something for you. So depending on what it is, if it's a mistake on your dollars amount for your income, then you'll send them your notice of assessment or your mom and dad's notice of assessment. Now, another thing to remember when you're filling in your OSAP is don't put in the cents, only the dollars. A lot of people put in the cents, and if you do, it doesn't recognize the cents. So say you had $1,000 income, but you put in $1,000 with the .00, it would show as $10,000 instead of $1,000. So it's important to remember that, but it states it very clearly. And as you're going along in the application, if there's if you want clarification, usually right at the side, there's a button to push on, a highlighted spot where you can click on that and it'll explain the situation. Okay. So at the end, when you're all done and now you're all ready to go, you're going to hit submit. Then the next pages that come up are all the documentation that is required for this application. And the documentation is basically signing declaration for yourself, the student, and signing declarations for parents. And then if you had any other, if you said you had a disability or were Indigenous, they'd ask for those documents too. But then there's one other form that isn't really a form. It's an online link. So it's called, it's the banking information. They need your banking information so that when the school goes to release your funds to you, that you can get it into your bank account. So this is done through a third party, and this is confusing. So many students are confused by it, and I don't blame them because it is confusing because you've got OSAP in Thunder Bay, you've got OSAP at your school, and you've got this National Student Loan Service Center, it's called. And they're a third party that are paid by OSAP to be the runners for putting the money in the bank account once the college or university says, okay, they're registered, let them have his money. And then they're the ones that will collect at the end when you're all done your school. So this link is emailed to you within about 48 hours after you submit your application. And it's basically a link, and you log in and you make up a login, a username and password for that as well. So when you do that, that's again very important that you hang on to that, because through the course of your studies, you're going to be able to see all the money you've borrowed, see when it's being deposited. It's really, really important to have that username and password and be able to find that information. Now, there is a number you can always call if you lose that, but it's very important to keep that information. So that's the one form, the very important form. And then all those other forms, you can either upload them to Thunder Bay head office by internet, or you can mail them or scan and email them to the financial aid office of the school you're going to attend. So once you've applied, now you sit and wait. You wait until probably mid-July to get an assessment. And an assessment means how much money you're going to get. So once you know how much you're getting from OSAP, you can start making other plans, or maybe you'll have other plans in place in case, because chances are you're going to have a bit of a shortfall. OSAP, as I say, is a good program, and if you have a high need, you get close to all the money that you're going to require, but not unless you're really frugal. It's college and university is very expensive. So we figure for loyalists, we calculated at about 15,000 per year if you're not living at home, if you have to move away from home to go to college or university. So it's quite a very expensive undertaking. So once you're approved and you get that assessment, it's going to show you exactly how many dollars you're getting and when you're getting them. So usually in a traditional OSAP year, a traditional college or university year is usually September to April. So on those normal years, you're going to get OSAP in September and you're going to get OSAP in January. You get it just after the term starts. You rarely get it before. Some schools can release a bit earlier, but historically it's usually within the first 2 weeks of classes that you get your OSAP money in your bank account. And again, I can't stress enough, make sure you submit the documents, because if you don't submit those documents, the funding will never get to you. And we have students always in September saying, well, why haven't I got my OSAP? And we look it up and, oh, you haven't submitted your signing sheets. So it's just an oversight on some students, but you do need to pay attention to what needs to be submitted. And another thing, so because OSAP is a financial need-based program, it's all based on your income and your family income. So you want to find out as early as you can. So that's why I always suggest to apply early as you can. And even when you do apply early, sometimes the application is out in April, March or April, but you still won't find out till mid-July, because the ministry doesn't start running those assessments until about mid-July. But there's also other awards and bursaries through any of the schools that you're going to attend. Each of those schools will have an awards office, and they'll have awards that you can apply for, usually in August, and then again in the next term. Every term there'll be awards you can apply for. So you need to look at all those websites and see what's available for you to apply for, even at the schools you're going to attend. So you've got to find ways to find extra money, and that's a good way of doing it. We give out a lot of bursaries and scholarships at Loyalist College. It's about $1 million. It doesn't sound like a lot, but we're quite a small school, so we do give out quite a bit of money. So that's an important thing to check on with your school that you're going to attend. Once you know where you're going to go, check and see what kind of awards and bursaries and when the dates are to apply. There's also at your awards office or at your guidance office at any of your local high schools here, or any high school in Ontario, there's usually a list of bursaries and awards that are given out to graduating students. So I remember being at schools giving an OSAP presentation, and the guidance counselor saying, warning the students to go and apply and trying to get them to apply for things, because there were lots of things for them to receive. So that's about the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. If you don't want to ask me here. Even if you're not coming to Loyalist College, you're welcome to send me an email, and I'll be glad to offer assistance and advice. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Laura. Just going to remove the spotlight there. So our participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat or Q&A. and we'll be sure to answer them. In the meantime, Denise, I'm just going to start bringing up your slides. And if I don't see any questions, I'll let you know if you're ready to go. I'm going to change the spotlight to Denise. See if it works. Okay. Perfect. You can see yourself front and center there.
Woohoo!
Yay.
Yay!
Perfect. All right, I'm just leaving another minute there in case there are any questions being typed out.
Okay. Just let me know when you're ready.
Will do. I do not see any questions yet, so I will pull up, I'll share my screen now, Denise, so that
Sure.
your slides are showing.
So thank you very much, Kendra, and thank you, Laura, for that presentation. My two children went through college. They both just graduated last year, and we went through the whole OSAP process. And overall, it was it went pretty smoothly. But you did have to stay on top of it and make sure you didn't miss anything. But overall, we had a very good experience with the OSAP process. And interesting that you say, which I would encourage all anyone listening to tonight and to the recording, is that even if you think you may not qualify, like Laura mentioned, I would still apply anyway, because you never know. And at that time, my children were even awarded a few grants, which they were small amounts, but every penny counts when you're going to post-secondary. So they were awarded a few grants as well. And interesting as well as when you do decide what school you're going to go to, like you said, to go in and find out what kind of scholarships or bursaries are available. My children were awarded a few at their respective colleges just by clicking a button. Like, it was that easy. Like, it was just apply now, and you didn't have to put in hardly any information. So that was kind of cool. So as Kendra mentioned, my name is Denise, and I work with OSAP Financial on the base. So if you are a dependent of a military member, you may see our sign at the Canucks Plaza. That's where we're located. And I am a financial counselor there, and I've been with OSAP for almost 13 years now, and been in the financial world for a very long time. But I've been here for 13 years on the base, and my role here with OSAP is to provide financial counseling to serving members and their families. In that role, I have access to different loan and grant programs to help military members who are experiencing financial challenges. The group the organization, I should say, that we go to is called Support Our Troops. So I don't work for Support Our Troops, but I go to Support Our Troops to access their loan and grant program. And they have a couple for post-secondary, so we're going to go over them. There's two different programs, and we're going to go over them tonight. So we can maybe skip to the next slide, and we'll go over the scholarship program. So I am not directly involved with the scholarship program, so the information I'm going to provide is very basic, but there is a wealth of information on their website, which I'll give to you as well. So the National Scholarship Program has, as it says, has been in existence since 2016, and it continues to grow. It is by donation. So these are Canadians who decide to donate money to support our troops. Last year in 2020, there were 75 scholarships awarded, and they range from $500 to $2,500. And the total amount that was awarded last year was $148,000. The next one says that a message will be out soon as to when you can apply, the application dates, but I can tell you that that date now has been released. So as of the 3rd of May, you can go onto the Supported Troops website and start the process of applying for the scholarship program. And it closes the 3rd of May, and it closes the 16th of July. So if you go to, like it says here, National Scholarship Program Support Our Troops, you will go through the process that you need to go through to register, to apply for a scholarship. There's a wealth of information on the website, so I'm not going to go through all of it because, like I said, I'm not directly involved with it all the time, but I can tell you that the application is lengthy because it is a scholarship. So when we say scholarship, it means that you don't repay it. So it is, I guess you can say, free money. You do need to have proof of enrollment from an academic institution, your most recent academic transcript, a reference letter, a point form list of volunteer and civic engagement activities, and a 3-part essay. So there is multiple steps involved with applying for the scholarship program, and rightfully so. It is for dependents of serving and retired members. So even if your family member, mom or dad, has retired, that's fine as well. As long as they are either a serving member or a retired member. You do need to be a Canadian citizen and a permanent resident of Canada, and you do need to be enrolled in an undergraduate program leading to a degree, diploma, or certificate at an accredited Canadian college or university. So that's the National Scholarship Program. So I would encourage you, if you are a dependent, and it can be a spouse as well, that you certainly go to that website, and as of May 3rd, you can apply for that scholarship program. So that's one program. And then the second program, which will be on the next slide, is called an Education Assistance Loan Program. And it was kind of cool that we got connected with Kendra. Thanks, Kendra, because this program is underutilized, and we're trying to get the word out as best we can that it is available for military families. It was off the shelf for a few years, and it came back on the shelf probably about 2 years ago. So Support Our Troops, again, same organization, offers a low interest rate education loans up to a maximum of $5,000. Can start at $500 and can go to a maximum of $5,000 annually, with a lifetime maximum of $20,000. So if you're applying for $5,000, you can apply for $5,000 for 4 years straight, and that will reach your maximum of $20,000. The one good thing about this particular program is that it used to be that you had to be either a full-time or part-time student. You can also be just doing some recertification courses or supplementary courses. So it doesn't have to be in a degree or diploma program, which it used to be years ago. So they've opened that up a little bit more. And again, supportourtroops.ca is the website that you can go to. I guess the difference between this and, of course, OSAP is OSAP, you do not have to repay until you finish your program. And I think I believe it's 6 months after you finish your program. The difference with the Education Assistance Loan Program is that you do start paying it right away. The loan is in the parent's name, so it is in the member's name, the serving member or the retired member's name, not in the student's name. And thus it is the parent that is applying, the serving member that is applying, or the retired member, and the loan is in their name, and it is their bank account that's being debited for the payments for the loan. If they're still serving, it comes off their paycheck. However, if they have retired, then it would just be coming out of their bank account. The interest rates are low. They are at 3.45%, and the repayment terms are pretty flexible depending on how much you need to borrow. So if we could, I think you can share the kind of the schedule, Kendra, if we can.
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to share the other screen. I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare.
Reshare.
There was probably an easier way to do that, but I'm not sure how. Here we go.
Okay, so this is just kind of an example of, let's just say you were to borrow the full 5,000 your first year, and you want to repay it over a 4-year period, and then your payment would be $111.67. So we do have those PDF, we have the applications available for you, and this can accompany it as well, so that you can get an idea of the different amounts that you need to apply for, and the different repayment terms that you can choose. So this is just another way to supplement perhaps OSAP, your personal savings, any RESPs that maybe your parents have for you. So my situation, I had some savings, my kids saved some of their money, and then we access OSAP a little bit. I didn't need to go this route, but it was always there to supplement just in case you needed it. It is not income financially driven, so we don't need to know that you actually need the money, but you need to have your parent would need to have the ability to repay it. So we do look at their ability to repay the loan. It is a loan that starts right away, so we need to make sure that they can repay the loan. What you do between you and your parent is between you and your parent. But we would need to make sure that the member can afford to repay the loan themselves. So we look at their income and their expense. We don't really go into detail on expenses, but we do make sure that they can afford to repay it. So I think that's it on the 2 programs. I am here on the base to help you with the application if you ever need some help with it. And then I would make sure that it gets to Support Our Troops. But again, if you go on to supportourtroops.ca, you will also see all of the information there. It's fairly user-friendly as well to maneuver through it. And but if you want to send it to me or email me or ask me, then I'll help you out. I help out people all the time with this application, but there's still a bit of a gap with people knowing that it exists for the military community, for the military members and their families. Perhaps I will just make a note on the EALP. It can be for the member and their spouse and their dependents, and each dependent. So if it's a spouse, maximum is 20,000, and if you have 4 children, the maximum is 20,000 per dependent. I think that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Sorry, thank you, Denise.
Denise, yeah.
All right. On my end, it shows that you're not Spotlight anymore, but I'm still just seeing you. There we go. Okay. I don't know what it looked like on your screens, but awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing all of this information today. I believe our attendees may have disconnected, so I will just continue on with the rest of the recording. In terms of anyone that is looking for information on anything available to persons with special needs, the contact that can help you with that is our Special Needs Inclusion Coordinator, which is Brianna Best. She can be reached at brianna.b, as in Bravo, at trentonmfrc.ca. And that is where you can also get the information on today's session. The slides from these PowerPoints, and the additional information like the applications that Denise mentioned. So thank you for being here with us today, and we'll see you soon.